When looking at the thorax, abdomen, and pelvis, we have three models that we're going to use. We have the muscle person model. We have the chest plate that is more of a life-size chest plate compared to the one that's on the muscle person. And then we have the pelvic model. So the first one we're going to look at is the internal intercostals. If it's internal, I know I need to look inside. An intercostal means that it is in between the ribs. So if I look under this chest plate, or if I look under this big chest plate, I can see that the white is representing the ribs, and there are muscles that are in between every rib. Those muscles in between every rib would be called the internal intercostals. So if we had like a dot we're going to put there, we might put it here or we might put it here. Any of those would be correct for internal intercostals. The next one is serratus anterior. Serratus means many edges. Think like a serrated knife. When I look at the side, sort of underneath the arm, on the side of the body, I have these muscles that come across, and they have many edges. So you can kind of see how they make these scalloped edges, almost like a serrated knife, and they're on the anterior of the body, so we call those the serratus anterior. We can also see them on this chest plate here. You can see all those scalloped edges, so that would be part of the serratus anterior. The next one is the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle that allows us to breathe. So if I look inside the muscle person, I can see that these are the lungs, and underneath the lungs, I have this very thin dome-shaped muscle, this like pink thin line that is called the diaphragm. It's going to have to contract and relax in order to allow us to breathe. The next one is rectus abdominis. Rectus basically means the muscle is going to be kind of up and down. So when I look at the fibers of that muscle, I can see that they travel up and down in the body. So the rectus abdominis are these muscles that sort of create your six-pack in your abdomen. I could see them both on the small chest plate and the large chest plate. So all of this would be called the rectus abdominis. The next one is the external and internal obliques. External tells us that it's on the outside. So when I'm looking at this muscle person, I see my rectus abdominis, and then to the outside, I see the external obliques. I can see those on both sides. Another reason I know that these are external obliques is because the external obliques will come in like a V. So they'll be angled down. Remember that oblique just means at an angle. I can also see on this chest plate that I have my external obliques on this side of the model because I can see that they are angled downward like a V. But the internal obliques are the middle layer of your abdomen. So your abdomen is created by three layers. The outer layer will have the external obliques. The middle layer will have the internal obliques. And the most deep layer will have the transverse abdominis. So if I'm looking at this plate, this is the only one that I can really see the internal obliques. And that's because on this side, we've removed a layer, so it's a little bit deeper. And we could tell that because we can see some cartilages from the ribs and the ribs here. And so since we've removed the external obliques here, I can see the internal obliques. Another way that you can tell this is internal obliques is that you'll notice the fibers come in like an upside down V. While the external obliques, the fibers came in this direction. So that is another tell that this is the internal obliques. Because we know that these are layers, if I kind of turn this and I look at the edge, I can see three layers on this side because on the outside, I see my external obliques. If I turn it on this side, I can see that there are only two layers because we've removed the external obliques. Now to find the transverse abdominis, we're going to flip that over because we know that transverse abdominis is going to be the innermost layer of the abdomen. And we can see it illustrated here. It's called transverse because the fibers will run horizontally across the whole thing. I will also have this on the little chest plate coming all the way across. So that's my transverse abdominis. The next 4 muscles on your list are going to be part of the pelvic girdle. So when I look at the pelvis, those last 4 I can only find on this model. The first one is the levator ani. The levator ani is actually made of multiple muscles, but for our purposes, we'll just learn it as the collective levator ani. It makes up the floor of the pelvis. So if I look inside the pelvis, all of those pink, reddish colored muscles that are represented here are all part of the levator ani because they make up the floor of the pelvis. So we have to look inside the pelvis to see those. The other 3 muscles are going to be on the outside. So just to kind of orientate you, these are the pubic bones. This is the pubic area. And if I look right at the bottom, I'm going to see this sort of line of a muscle that comes across. That is my superficial transverse perineal. It's called superficial because it's more to the outside. You can see it kind of like juts out from the other muscles. And it's transverse, meaning it goes across the entire pelvis from one side to the other. So that is our superficial transverse perineal. Our deep transverse perineal also transverses from pubic bone to pubic bone, but it's a little bit more recessed. So it makes this big, broad, kind of flat muscle that comes all the way across. And hopefully you can see in this video how this one kind of juts out, so that's the superficial, and this one is a little bit more recessed, so that's the deep. The last one we have to know is the external anal sphincter. Well, it's external, so we know we're going to find it on the outside. It's a sphincter, which means it's a circular muscle. We can see it right here. And it's going to be a little bit more posterior. So if I turn this like this, you could see that it would be down here towards the posterior because it's at the end of your anus. And those are the 4 muscles of the pelvis that you need to know.